Shalom. Shmuel here from CFOIC. How are you? Very glad to be here. Great opportunity to connect. I hope I'm familiar to some of you. If you haven't heard of me or never met me before, I hope it's going to happen soon. I've been in CFOIC for more than 2 years now. I've been traveling around the US, went to many places, met great people. I hope some of you are watching me right now. This is the first time I'm uploading a video teaching, a Bible teaching of my own, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. Unfortunately, with this crazy time, coronavirus, we're not able to join you and there. So I hope this small screen is going to do the job, and I hope this teaching is going to be in merit of all the sick people and with a lot of help to all the others and all the people in need. The Book of Ruth is a book that is usually there in the end and not so familiar to many people. So if you're watching it live, awesome, join, please do. But if it's something that you watched later and not live and you're not sure, you remember the book, I recommend you stop this recording and go read the book. It's 4 chapters. It's not going to take you a while, and you're going to be more up to date with the story. The Book of Ruth is a book that historically happens in the time of the judges, and we recognize the story and the person behind it as the famous story of Ruth, who is from Moabites, and she marries the son of Naomi and Elimelech, and both of them people left Israel, and when the situation here wasn't easy, the 2 sons, her husband, Ruth's husband, died. And the famous outline of the story is how Ruth does not go back to her home, does not go back to her nation, but joins Naomi in coming back and returning to Israel. The story then continues to show how she's going to be reunited with a member of the family. And this story, this book, is being read in Israel and around the world in synagogues in the night of Shavuot. Shavuot, the day where we celebrate receiving the Torah, and it's always been a great question to me. What's the connection between the Book of Ruth to receiving the Torah? And the custom is to stay up awake all night and learn Torah, and then in the end, when you're very tired, at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, you read the story. Initially, I thought it's because it's an interesting story, so they tell us an interesting story. But of course, there is a strong connection between the book and the holiday. Some say it's because of the harvest. From this photo, you can see this story goes into the harvest time. Shavuot is the harvest time, but the vast majority of the people talk about kindness. Book of kindness, and the Torah is all about kindness, and you see it's really connected. It's easy to see. And when we really think about kindness in the story, and most of us are going to stop in the beginning when Ruth decides not to abandon Naomi, her mother-in-law, although she's not married to the family anymore. She could leave and go back to her home, but she stayed with her and she stuck with her. And this is one of the symbolic moments where actually all the story of converting lies on, joining the people. And in that sense, that's a great act of kindness. But surely enough, there's many layers in the story, and I want to go and dive a bit deep and try to really understand what lies in the essence of the story, and maybe to explain why is it so crucial to Shavuot. So if you continue to read after the first chapter, you begin the story of encountering Boaz. And the story of Boaz is not really clear because she meets him and she asks him to redeem the family. And then he says, you know what, you're going to be blessed, but then nothing really happens. And then there's this tricky story, weird story that happens in the night when she needs to go, when she lies next to his legs. Things are not so clear, and really the question is to understand why. So, just to make it clear in the beginning, the very basic story we're talking about right now is yibbum. Yibbum is an halachic situation that if a man and a woman are married and the man dies childless, doesn't have children, it's a mitzvah, it's a commandment, it's an obligation of the brother to go and marry the widow and to generate the next generation, okay, and bring kids to the world from almost a spiritual connection of the brother that died without children. Yes, it is the idea that the children they will have are going to bear the name of and the legacy of the brother who died without children. Obviously, this is a great deal of kindness, and let's see it inside the verse. The verse says, was about to read it to you in Hebrew. כי ישבו אחים יחדיו ומת אחד מהם ובן אין לו לא תהיה אשת המת חוצה לאיש זר יבמה יהיה עליה ולקחו לו לאישה ויבמה. So when brothers dwell together and one of them dies and leaves no son, the wife of the deceased shall not be married to a stranger outside of the family. Her husband's brother shall unite with her. He shall take her as wife and perform the levir's duty. Now, forgive me, I'm an Israeli, born and raised here, and I'm not so good in this English terminology of things from the Bible, so we're going to call it yibbum. Yibbum is the process when the brother takes his brother widow and marries her. And I wrote down here, just to make a note, that this is a great gift that the brother is giving. Obviously, you didn't decide to marry her. It's not because of big love. It's just because you want to show kindness to your dead brother, to your family. Spiritually, the child it belongs to the dead brother. The dead brother has a legacy, has a continuation in the world. You made a name for him. And really, the second verse, you can see, והיה הבכור אשר תלוד יקום על שם אחיו המת ולא ימחה שמו מישראל. The first son that she bears shall be accounted as to the dead brother, and that his name may not be blotted out in Israel. There's an importance of having a name, and children, your son, is what holds your name. More than just your name, it is what you continue. And when the brother didn't left anything to continue him, it's a very sad and tragic moment, and you need to show appreciation of the family and the legacy, and the brother goes and does that. It's important to note there are ways to not do that for many reasons, for many opportunities, many situations. We're not going to go into the details now, but later on we're going to see examples from the Torah. Yibbum is a great act of kindness, almost like surrogate parenthood. Indeed, there's something there. So, Ruth, as we see, she seems like a perfect role model of a person, right? And you see a person who does not leave his mother-in-law, even when she really, says to her, "You can abandon me. I have nothing to give to you." She was an old person. She couldn't bring children to the world. She wouldn't have another child to marry him and to do this process of yibbum. So she releases her. Orpah, the other daughter-in-law, understands that and leaves. But you see that Ruth really stuck with Naomi and really cares about her and shows her kindness. And you think about those great values that she has. She's kind. She's there. She's connected. She doesn't abandon. She wants to join the people. You give her straight A's in everything, but there's the end of the story where you don't understand what happens. It's like a seduction scene. She comes in the middle of the night. You come to her, lie next to him, see what happens to her. It's a very suggestive situation. It's very planned out, and you see that things are not so clear exactly to what really happens there. But when you go in the middle of the night to a field, you really can almost imagine what's going to happen there. How do we supposed to understand it, especially as we read it in the highlight of the night? So I'm going to jump into two different stories that really I believe are going to show or connect the dots of what really is going to happen here. Look, in the book of Bereshit, in the book of Genesis, we have two major stories, the story of Abraham and the story of Joseph. And throughout the story, when you read them, really you see nothing stops them. Story of Abraham and the story of Joseph, but there's two digressions. Two chapters that seems to be totally unconnected to the story, and you really don't understand why do they stop the story in the middle. And I'm talking about the story of Lot and his daughters, and the story of Judah and Tamar. Chapter 19 and chapter 38 in the book of Genesis. Sorry, I choked. It's good that you can pause and record later. So the two digression is the story of Lot and his daughter and Judah and Tamar, chapter 19 and chapter 38. Let's start with Lot. So the story of Lot, very shortly, he lives in Sodom, he separates from Abraham, and we hear that the angels come to save him from the wicked city of Sodom. Lot is not a bad person in the sense that we hear that when guests come, he opens his arms and he brings them to his home. But then something really sad happens. While they're escaping Sodom and the city is ruined and destroyed, Lot's wife is going to stop there, and the story brings us into a very sad situation where Lot and his daughters are going to find themselves in a cave, and in that cave, there's going to happen something that's going to almost look like a proto-yibbum concept. The two daughters believe this is the end of the world as we know it, and there's not going to be any more mankind. So they are going to use, and they're going to mistakenly, through seductive ways, going to continue the world with their father. It's a devastating moment. In their head, though, they wanted to do something positive, we believe. They really thought the world is destroyed. And what other options do they have? So they do something which is almost a yibbum. You can call it a yibbum, a proto-yibbum, but a wicked and mistaken act of yibbum. And the story goes back to that. And when you really try to figure out what is the concept that doesn't work with Lot, how did they happen to become to this situation that they're going to do this yibbum with their father, and they're going to try to save the world by doing something so bizarre and so weird. And this notion is, I want to say, one of the column of the stories that we need to go back to, as we are trying to hold the story of yibbum. The notion is trying to figure out what is the notion of genuine kindness and imitated kindness or broken kindness. Because in the story of Lot, just before the act of running away and what happened in the cave, We'll read the story of how everything started. And the story doesn't sound good. When the two angels come and arrive to Sodom, Lot is there to welcome them. He brings them there to their home, and he treats them not far from what Abraham did when he treated the angels. And he tells them to stay, and he does a big party to them. But then something happened. We know that the city of Sodom didn't like guests so much. So in verse 5, we can see what really happens eventually. The story goes that, and they shouted to Lot and said to him, the people shouted, the crowd from outside, who are those people, right? What are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us, that we may be intimate with them. Lot went out to them to the entrance, shut the doors behind them, tries to relax the crowd, and said, I beg you, my friends, do not commit such a wrong. Now, to continue this, he should have explained why it's so bad to treat people this way, or why this act is going to be so negative. But he offers something really, really harsh. Look, I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you may do to them as you please. But do not do anything to these men, since they have come under the shelter of my roof. What? Lot is offering his own daughters to replace the guests. This is broken kindness. This is the wrong way of kindness. The story is so bad and the influence is so strong on the daughters is that when we're really going to try to look back in history, we would understand what are the roots of the sin here. Kindness should be an act that you're going to try to begin with your family, your kids, your wife, the intimate family, and then you spread it out. When you don't understand really what is kindness and you try to break it and twist it, you're going to become so ignorant that you're going to offer kindness to people, random people who are going to come to your house and not to your own family. In the after effect of the story, we read that when they get pregnant from their father, they call the son's name Moab. In Hebrew, Moab, Me'av, from the father. You know, the story of Moab as a nation that is going to be eventually Ruth is an interesting one because we know that there's an obligation of the people of Israel not to welcome any Moabites to the nation. You know why? Because the daughters of Lot, their broken kindness was something so painful to them that they didn't like to do anything related to kindness. We remember what kindness meant in our father home. When father wanted to make some kindness, he brought us outside. He violated us. Look at the verse says, you're not allowed, a Moabite shall not admit it into the congregation. Why? Because they did not meet with you food and water on your journey after you left Egypt. You see what happens? They want to be so far away from kindness that the nation itself is going to be so far in distance from kindness. When you start a path of broken kindness, the wrong kind of kindness, people are going to be drifted away from it. This is not going to be for them. This is the nation of Moab. Funny enough, in the book of Ruth, a daughter of the nation of Moab is going to encounter kindness again. But we're going to get there later. This is not a story about a person, Moab, the daughter or the son of the proto-yibbum of the daughters of Lot and Lot. This is a nation that is there with wicked and twisted thoughts of kindness, broken kindness, if you wish. The second story is the story of Judah. Again, complete digression of the story. In the middle of the story of Joseph, we begin to read about the story of Yehuda. You see that in Genesis 37, there's a story when the family comes to the father, to Jacob, and tell them Joseph dies and he's mourning and he cannot get out from it. Look at verse 35. And the sons and daughters sought to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted, saying, "No, I will go down mourning to my son in Sheol." Thus his father dwelled him. Just after that, we begin to read the story of Yehuda. Digression. Yehuda leaves the tribe, leaves the brother, and find himself walking to the people of Ish Adolami. His name is Chira. And this is where the story starts. So, just to remind you the story, Yehuda has 3 sons. This daughter or daughter-in-law, Tamar, marries the first one and he dies. According to what we saw in yibbum, he's supposed to marry the second son. She's supposed to marry the second son. And she does marry the second son, but it doesn't work so well. He dies as well. Now he has a young son, name is Shelah. And he wants to, or let's say, he doesn't really want to give her the opportunity. And he runs away from that. And he ditches her with different reasons until she understands that she needs to do something. And what she does is that she dressed as a harlot, and when he goes with her and she's asking for payment, he leaves his staff, his coat, and she gets pregnant. And when the people are coming to him to judge this harlot that nobody knows that did such an awful thing to get pregnant and do such an awful thing, she comes to him and with a very subtle interaction says 38 and 25, as she was being brought out, she sent this message to her father-in-law. "I am with child by the man to whom this belongs." And she added, "Examine this. Whose seal and cord and staff are these?" Now, this is the moment when I'm going to say, I hope you know some Hebrew. Because when you read this, something shouts out very loud. She's going to use the same expression, which I marked here, akerna in Hebrew. Can you see it? Akerna is exactly what was used the chapter before when they brought the clothes of Yosef to their father and said to him, Akerna. Oh, Akerna attacks again. Did you recognize what happened here? Do you know what I'm talking about? Now, I don't know what happened in this chapter 38 that made us start with and look at as the verse say, Vayi ba'et ha'i, in 38:1, Vayered Yehuda me'et achav. About that time, Judah left his brothers. In English, it's left, but in Hebrew, it's Vayered. He went down. Why did he went down? I do not know. I don't know why he went down, but I know that going down is not only technical, going from an high place to a low place. Going down is you wouldn't be our leader anymore. And Yehuda might be at that moment in a very troubled situation. This is the time after selling Joseph. And something went really bad at that point. And the person that was supposed to be one of the leaders, at least, if not the leader, Yehuda, did something wrong. And he lost the son. He lost Joseph. Could it be this is the reason why he went down and he left? Now, Yehuda faces a very interesting situation here. He is the judge. He is the famous person of the town. He's a great person, at least. And there's a harlot who tries to blame him, but very subtle, only between her and him, that he might be involved. Now, a man without dignity would say, burn her away. I don't know her. I've never met her. She doesn't blame me. Who is she? But he doesn't do that. You know what he does? He recognizes the wrong. Yehuda admits to Tamar and says, Tzadka mimeni, she's more righteous than me. Yehuda, in Hebrew, confess, recognize, odeh. To recognize is really the very basic thing a leader needs to do. When there's a situation, when you face a situation, you do need to recognize and own it. And when Yehuda owns it, it might even going to be the reason why he's going to be going back again to the leadership, when the next step is going to be when he's going to face, in the name of the brothers, Pharaoh. But to summarize this chapter of Tamar and Yehuda, we see a story of a yibbum like, that didn't go the way it was supposed to go, and Tamar did something that used or seductive ways to own that moment. More than anything, we hear here about the good credit of Judah that was able to admit the right and recognize the reality and the truth. We know that something good came out of it. How do we know? Because we know that from this pregnancy, Peretz and Zerach came. Now, when you see the family tree in front of you, you, I hope, get the feeling that something big is happening. In one hand, in one side, we have a story of Lot and his daughters, Moab. From them, Ruth arrived. And then we have the story of Judah, Peretz and Zerach. Boaz is going to come from it. And this reunited between Boaz and Ruth is going to go to Obed, Jesse, and David. King David is going to come from their offspring. But why? What happens in the story of Ruth and how this story is going to collapse once again? Because if the theory that we're trying to present here today is true, the broken kindness of Lot is going to interact with the recognition of Judah and Tamar into a story that's going to correct and make them better. Ruth is acting against the backdrop of Lot, and Boaz is acting against the backdrop of Judah. How? In a second. So, when we go to the story of Ruth, and when we understand that she's going to go into the field, she's going to meet Boaz, and Boaz is going to be the relative of the family. He's going to be the relative. He's not going to be the son or the brother, but he's going to be close enough to try to fill the gap and try to reunite the family. He's going to be the seed of the family that can continue the legacy. Naomi knows that. She tells it to Ruth, and Ruth goes back to the field, or goes to the field, and trying to look for recognition. And you know what? Boaz is nailing it immediately. Look at verse 10. Let's do the pointer again. ותיפול על פניה ותשתחו ארצה. She prostrated herself with her face to the ground and said to him, Why are you so kind as to single me out when I am a foreigner? Did you saw this? I've marked it in red. Le'akireni. Le'akireni. Doesn't sound familiar? It does. It's exactly like the akerna of Judah and Tamar. Akireni is exactly like Hakerna here. Akerna. The story of Tamar and Judah comes back to reenact itself. How do you le'akireni? Do you recognize me? And immediately the story of Boaz is, yes, I recognize you. I've been told of what you did with your mother-in-law. after the death of your husband. And he blesses her. And he blesses her with very interesting words, right? May you have full recompense from the, yeah, I don't know, it's lost here with this. But the blessing is something very interesting that you need to be under, whose wings you have sought refuge, God. He recognizes and he blesses her. And he wants to really recognize what she did. And the recognition is there. Boaz is going to replay in a very nice way what his old grandfather did when Judah did. But it's not enough. Recognition is great, but how it's going to be played out. Because just after he recognized her, it seems like he lost the plot and he's not doing anymore. And this is exactly the point when we began this understanding that how she's going to act now. She is from the tribe of Moab. I want to remind you, we know how Lot's daughter played it. We know how Tamar played it. Is she going to use the card of deception and seduction again? He did nothing for her. Yes, he recognized it, but where's the kindness she was looking for? More than that, when you read the story inside, you see how everything almost play itself to the scenario. Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her daughter, I must seek a home for you where you may be happy. And then, now there is our kinsman Boaz, whose girls you were close to. He will be winnowing barley in the threshing floor tonight. And then it seems very clear what you need to do. So bathe, anoint yourself, dress up, and go down to the threshing floor. But do not disclose yourself to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, 3 dots. It's almost that there's nothing more clear of what's going to happen. The story of seduction, the story that the daughters of Lot are going to play itself again. The story of Tamar is going to play itself again. When you do not get things the way you want, you do the things the way you want to do it. Seduction. And it continues. If it's not clear to you, Vayuchal Boaz vayesht vayitav libo. Boaz ate and drank, and in the cheerful mode went to lie down beside the grain pile. Then she went over straightly and uncovered his feet and lay down. I'm sorry, hard words to read in English, but in Hebrew I know how to read it. And the word is very clear, and I marked it in red. Vayavo lishkov biktzei ha'arema. Ha'arema is the grain pile. Vatavo balat. Now, when you read it, it almost strongly brings you back to the moment it happened before. I remember it happened. Where did it happen? Sounds familiar? The book of Genesis. When Lot and his daughter's story is going to be reenacting itself. Vaya b'me'ara, ha'arema b'me'ara. Is it not the same words? Ha'arema, ha'me'ara. Look at that. It's almost acting as filling the gap of your understanding. You know exactly what's going to happen now. The deception and seduction is going to happen again. Even the words Vatavo balat sounds exactly like Lot. She's going to come just like Lot to the Arema, to the Me'ara, to the cave, and it's all going to react itself. But then when you look to the next situation, you understand that the seduction story that never happens happened right here. Because Ruth, not like the stories before, she's going to give Boaz the opportunity to choose. She's going to give Boaz the freedom to decide whether he wants to take the kindness. You see, she recognized that he recognized it already. And in that scenario, he did what Judah did. The story of Judah and Tamar was rectified. Now, the story of seducing with just like the Moabites are going to do, Lot's daughters, is a question that she needs to answer herself. And she could have done something in using this seduction scenario, but she doesn't. As the verses say, Vayomer, mi'at, vatomer anochi Ruth amatcha. Who are you? He asked. And she replied, I am your handmaid Ruth. Spread your robe over your handmaid. Spread your robe. English and Hebrew. Oh, the shame. In Hebrew, the words is uparasta kanfecha. Uparasta kanfecha literally means you will spread your wings. Isn't it exactly what he asked God to do? When Boaz sends a blessing in the moment of recognition, he tells the God of Israel, under his wings you have sought refuge. The word knafav, uparasta kanfecha. These are the same words. I hope you follow the Hebrew. Knafav, uparasta knafecha. Ruth says to him something very, very deep. Just like you thought God should spread the wings over me, I'm asking you to do exactly the kindness you asked God to do. I believe you can do and act like God by spreading the wings, your wings over me. And I believe that the justice you're going to give with the kindness, true kind of kindness that is not starting with seduction, that is not finishing with seduction, but your own will, this is exactly what's going to bring the redemption. And the redemption indeed comes when those two elements come together, recognition and kindness. We started with the question, why do we read this in Shavuot? Where Shavuot, we celebrate the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments is a very basic, low level of understanding and recognizing God. God is here. God is present. We believe in you, God. Kindness is when you are beginning to line your actions to God's will. The story of Ruth is the story where false kindness and bad kind of kindness of Moavim, of the Moabites, would be rectified. When recognition is going to be connected again. And from those two lines, the lines of Ruth for Lot and his daughters and Judah and Tamar, we're going to see the reunited Boaz and Ruth, and from it, obviously, King David. I wish you all only the best. Keep it safe, and I hope we do meet again here soon enough. Toda.